They thought they broke you with their words, their silence, their betrayal. They delivered pain to your doorstep like it was a gift you didn't ask for, but were forced to open. They walked away thinking they won, thinking you'd crumble, collapse, fade quietly into the background. But pain is not just destruction. Pain is alchemy. Pain is transformation waiting to happen. And while you were picking up the shattered pieces of your life, something strange began to happen. You became stronger, wiser, sharper. And they moved on, yes, but they didn't leave untouched. Because pain, real pain, doesn't just disappear. It finds its way back home. And now it sleeps beside them, in their regrets, in the silence between their distractions, in the quiet ache of a conscience left unattended. This is not a story of revenge. It's a story of reckoning, a story of rising. And if you've ever been hurt by someone who walked away smiling, this message is for you. The unseen boomerang of harm. There's a quiet lie that people tell themselves when they hurt others, that they'll walk away untouched, that they can drop a cruel word, betray trust, break a heart, and life will go on unshaken, as if the wound they created only lives in the one who bleeds. But that's not how this works, because pain doesn't just vanish. It doesn't disappear into the air like vapor. It embeds itself, it lingers, and the strange thing is, it doesn't always stay with the person it was given to. It circles back, quietly, relentlessly, like a shadow with perfect memory. Some people hurt others because they're in pain themselves, but many hurt out of power, arrogance, or pure neglect. And they convinced themselves it was nothing, that they had the right, that the other person was weak, dramatic, overreacting. They push forward. They succeed on the outside. They keep up appearances. But beneath the surface, something follows them. Regret often shows up years later, not as some poetic justice, but as a hollow feeling they can't explain, an anxiety they can't name, a discomfort they try to drown out with noise, distraction, or achievement. But it stays, because pain is patient. It doesn't need to scream. It knows how to whisper in the moments when life slows down. And sometimes the person they hurt is no longer even thinking about them. Sometimes the one who is wounded has healed, grown, maybe even forgotten. But the one who caused it, they remember. Not always consciously, but deeply. It's the way they struggle to sleep, the way they avoid silence, the way they flinch at sincerity. Because somewhere deep inside, there's a part of them that knows they gave pain to someone who didn't deserve it. And that realization doesn't fade. See, people believe that the consequences of their cruelty must be visible, immediate, or dramatic. But that's not justice. Justice is subtle. It moves in silence. It settles in the places we can't see, our mind, our memory, our conscience. So when someone gives you pain and walks away thinking it was just another moment, another day, they don't realize they've invited that same pain into their own life. Not as punishment, but as echo, as weight, as presence. It might take time, but life always delivers the full picture. And when they lay down at night, when the world is quiet and the masks come off, they feel it, because pain may leave your hands, but it never forgets the direction it was thrown in. And now it sleeps beside them, the curse of unacknowledged guilt. There is a weight heavier than shame, heavier than failure. It's guilt left unspoken, guilt that is buried, denied, and ignored for so long that it starts to grow roots in the subconscious. When someone hurts you deeply and walks away like it meant nothing, They don't always get what they wanted. Maybe they got distance. Maybe they found a new life, a new identity, a new distraction. But there's something they brought with them, something they didn't notice at first. And that something is guilt, not the loud kind, not the type that shows up as a confession or an apology. This one is more dangerous. It lives in denial. It hides behind the mask of pride, sarcasm, coldness. It tells itself, I didn't do anything wrong, until that story starts to crumble under the weight of time. You can bury guilt under work, under busyness, under attention. You can numb it with validation, humor, or even cold logic. But you can't kill it, not if what you did mattered. Not if, deep down, you knew better. Because the human conscience doesn't vanish just because someone stops listening to it. It waits. It waits for silence. It waits for the moment when the noise fades, when the distractions fall short, and the person is left with themselves. And then it speaks. Sometimes it sounds like anxiety. Sometimes it's restlessness. Sometimes it's an unexplainable bitterness toward life. They don't know why they're angry or lonely or tired, in a way that sleep doesn't fix. But it's there. That's what happens when someone causes harm and refuses to look at it. They don't escape it. They carry it in the form of guilt they refuse to name. And guilt, unlike regret, doesn't need your permission to make a home in you. There's a curse to unacknowledged guilt. It doesn't just haunt the past, it poisons the present. It clouds every relationship that follows. It distorts every moment of intimacy, every attempt at connection. Because when you haven't faced the truth of what you've done, you can't fully be with anyone else. There's always a shadow in the room, a part of you that's missing because it's still hiding from what it broke. And that's the tragedy. Not just that they hurt someone who loved them, but that they never had the courage to face it. Because facing it would mean admitting that they were wrong, that they chose selfishness over compassion, that they abandoned someone they should have protected. And for some people, that admission is too much. So they pretend, they smile, they move forward with their life as if nothing ever happened. But their reflection knows. Their silence knows. In the middle of the night knows. And that's where guilt lives, in the places we can't lie. So if you're someone who is hurt and you wonder if they ever think about it, don't wait for the apology. Don't wait for the closure. Know this, they carry it, whether they show it or not. Because the universe may delay truth, but it never erases it. And guilt, when ignored, doesn't disappear. It just sleeps beside them. Letting go is not weakness, it's mastery. People misunderstand what it means to let go. They think it's giving up, that it means the pain didn't matter, that it means you're okay with what they did. But letting go isn't about pretending it didn't hurt. It's not about minimizing the betrayal or pretending the wound wasn't deep. Letting go is about refusing to let what they did become what you carry. See, when someone hurts you, they hand you a decision, whether they meant to or not. You can carry it, let it burn in your chest, let it follow you through your days, let it shape how you love, how you trust, how you show up in the world. Right? You can set it down, not because it didn't break you, but because you're tired of bleeding for a wound they never returned to heal. Letting go isn't forgetting, it's remembering with clarity, with dignity, and with strength. It's saying, this happened, it changed me, but it will not define me. That is mastery. That is emotional sovereignty. And the reason it feels so hard is because your pain wants justice. Your mind replays what happened, looking for answers, closure, maybe even revenge. But here's the truth no one wants to say. You may never get those things. You may never get the apology. You may never hear them say, I was wrong. And if you keep waiting for that, you give them power over your peace. Letting go is reclaiming that power. It's realizing you don't need them to understand the damage they caused for you to start healing it. You stop waiting. You stop rehearsing the same conversations in your head. You stop letting their absence speak louder than your presence. And here's the most brutal paradox. The moment you truly let go, not performatively, not with bitterness, but for real, is the moment their choices start weighing heavier on them than on you, because you've stepped out of the game. You're no longer emotionally dependent on whether or not they acknowledge your worth. You know your worth, you've earned it in the fire they left you in. And now they're left with what they did. They don't get to watch you suffer and feel justified anymore. They don't get to define the narrative. You've taken the story back. Letting go isn't about being the bigger person in some moral sense. It's about refusing to be shackled to someone else's inability to love you right. It's about choosing your future over your history. And yes, it takes time. Yes, it hurts. Because healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens in the small moments when you choose peace over punishment, when you choose to build instead of relive. But the more you let go, the more space you create for purpose, for strength, for people who actually know how to show up. And while you're rising, while you're learning to live without the weight they left you with, they start to feel the gravity of what they lost, because now they no longer hold you. But their guilt, their emptiness, that stays with them. You didn't lose. You evolved. You didn't break. You rebuilt. And now, while you sleep in peace, the pain they gave you sleeps beside them. Success is the ultimate reckoning. They wanted you small. Maybe not in words, but in actions, in energy, in how they treated you. They wanted you uncertain of yourself, doubting your instincts, second-guessing your worth, because small people need others to shrink in order to feel tall. So when they gave you pain, they thought they were writing the final chapter, that you'd stay there, stuck in the aftermath, trying to piece together what went wrong, questioning what you did. But here's what they never expected, that you would rise, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. That what they meant to destroy you with would become the very thing that built you. Because there's something powerful about being broken and deciding to rebuild with your own hands. There's something sacred about refusing to stay in the cage someone else put you in. And while they kept watching your past, you started building a future. Quietly, relentlessly, without needing applause. You turned your wounds into wisdom, your silence into focus, your isolation into creation. And that is success. Not just the kind the world sees, but the kind you feel in your chest when you look in the mirror and recognize yourself again. When you don't flinch, when you don't need to explain, when you walk into a room and don't apologize for taking up space. That kind of success speaks louder than words, louder than revenge, louder than any message you could send them. Because while they expected your collapse, you built a foundation. And every step you take forward, every win, every moment of peace, every connection that comes into your life that's real, honest, and nourishing, it all becomes part of the reckoning they didn't see coming. See, some people don't learn through confrontation. They don't listen to reason, to cries for help, or to pleas for understanding. They learn through silence, through absence, through the deafening weight of someone they hurt, thriving without them. And that's when it hits. not in some dramatic cinematic moment, but in the stillness when they scroll through a picture they weren't tagged in, when they hear your name in a conversation they weren't invited to, when they realize they're no longer the villain in your story, they're just irrelevant to it. And that's where it stings, because they didn't just lose you, they lost access. They lost the right to witness what you became. Your life becomes the proof, not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right, that you were always capable, always worthy, always enough. And the most poetic part, you don't need to gloat. You don't need to throw it in their face, because your presence, your peace, your purpose, it speaks for itself. While they lay beside their guilt, trying to drown out what they did, you wake up each day lighter, stronger, unapologetically alive. Your success isn't just the life you built, it's the version of you they can't touch anymore. And while you don't think about them anymore, they never stop thinking about you, because the pain they gave you didn't stay in you. It became your fire, your clarity, your voice, and now it sleeps beside them.